Some programs saved at SUNY Potsdam. The college was looking to phase out 14 programs. Now that number is 10. New details tonight with 7 News reporter Brennan Straub.
Jeff, bachelor's degrees in biochemistry and chemistry, as well as bachelor's and master's programs in public health, once on the chopping block, now appear to be safe. In an email sent out to the campus community, SUNY Potsdam Interim Provost Alan Hersker announced 4 of the 14 academic programs that were recommended to be cut can continue. Of the other 10, 1 would be deactivated, 9 others discontinued, and phased out over the next 3 to 4 years. SUNY Potsdam is grappling with a $9 million budget deficit, and to stay solvent, needs to make major changes. The president of United University Professions, with members at SUNY Potsdam, calls this a step in the right direction.
So it's good news, but now we got to get the other 9 back.
Kowal says these cuts are coming at a time when record funding for SUNY schools was budgeted by state lawmakers. He says the system is choosing to punish SUNY Potsdam instead of helping them through this financial crisis.
Or conversely, by the campus foundation at SUNY Potsdam, which by definition is intended to support the campus's academic mission, there's approximately $50 million in that foundation. Why isn't that funding being used?
Faculty Senate Chair Greg Gardner wrote a letter to Hersker last week, citing that the Faculty Senate Executive Committee objects to 13 of the 14 programs being discontinued, pointing out many of the programs generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in tuition and fees and would take away unique opportunities for students if the programs were lost. In response to Tuesday's recommendations, Gardner said the Senate is pleased some of the programs would continue, but would go on to say, quote, "The loss of programs will leave our campus smaller and less exciting and give students fewer opportunities." SUNY has to approve Potsdam's plan. Back at September's announcement, Chancellor John King joined Potsdam administration and said he has confidence Potsdam will get back on track. And to note, with the programs that will be phased out, current students in those programs will be able to finish and get a degree at SUNY Potsdam. Jeff?
Brendan, thank you.